Right. Today is January 31st, 2024. This is the AI Agents Engineering Sync. The first thing that I threw on the agenda was just something to talk about aligning on kind of like the first iteration deliverables. This seemed, I wasn't in the meeting last week, but this seemed to be sort of a point of confusion if I was reading the notes of just like what the first iteration is going to be. But do we need to talk about this, or is this already solved?
Um, so what I did is similar to what we had already on model registry. I tried to replicate that for AI agents, but that's me writing down. I don't know if it's the correct one or not. It would be nice if people check that and uh yeah, so if that is actually deliverable for the experimental version. So I'm also dividing here between experimental and MVC and just like later what is the minimum that we need to deliver to have some value. Oh yeah, thanks, Darby.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I try to be more on the user capability side rather than on actual implementation of what those things are. But yeah, it can be. It's not exactly jobs to be done, but some capabilities for users could do within the MVC.
So everything in this list would be considered the first iteration?
In my opinion, yes, but
Okay.
just my opinion.
Yeah, I saw your ping on Slack, and I've been meaning to get back to this. I just got back home last night, so I'll take a look first thing this morning. The one thing that stuck out to me was the searching of agents, because like I suspect the list is going to be rather like finite to start with. So I don't know that that's necessarily something I would have called out explicitly, but that was really the only major feedback I had. Anybody else have thoughts?
I mean, I think that would be an easy thing to defer, would be searching.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I understood like that you meant searching the list of agents, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what I meant.
Okay.
It's just like regular CRUD, like basic CRUD of the app is get search update. Update is not over there, but I think it should be in the minimum. It hasn't been done anything on that yet, but it should be part. It should be part of the minimum at least. And the chat, which we've been working on, like, and a lot of this is focusing on creating, but there's very, very little being done on how users will consume it in the end. So that was the last item. So you add an API. And the second one, I think, would be embedded chat, something somehow, or a URL that you could pass to someone that would just open, like you said before, Marshall, like GitLab pages or something that would open. So I haven't gone too far on that, and it would be nice to define the how would users consume this, like the final user experience for this.
Yeah. I think in terms of experimental, I think we would like based on his feedback thus far, I think we'll get pushback on anything that's not just the chat interface in the application. So I'm willing to keep it at that for now and not even mention anything else for the time being.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's what I mentioned. At least it's over there. And
appreciate it. And I think I also wanted to say that I thought this was a great idea and well executed, Eduardo. I think you did.
Yeah, just if you want to change, don't need to ask what needs to be changed. Just change yourself. There's no. I don't mind at all.
Cool.
All right. So
yeah.
So can we? I don't know if we want to put this here. Maybe we start another list below, and I can do this later, where we bump search to just like follow up tasks, and then we can start to add things down there that will be like, I think it helps to sort of like show here's the initial version, and then like here's the other things that we've talked about and thought about, but we're not going to do them yet, and being sort of intentional about that. And so we could represent that here, and then that would be kind of an easy way for others to consume that too, so that they know like this is out of scope for the first iteration. And then, things like embedding the chat agent, the searching, whatever other ideas that we come up with along the way, we can throw in that secondary list.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
And we can we should copy paste this into the beginning of every Thursday meeting. Just copy paste what has been delivered, and just so that everybody's ready to have this screen as first thing, so there's no confusion or, I don't know, forgetfulness of what happened in the past meeting.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let's see. So then I'll just add some notes in here, change link to that epic. And then while I'm typing, if we want to move on to the next stuff, Mark, if you want to show kind of what you're working on, we can jump to that.
Yeah, so there's basically not much to show. So I was working on getting those extra props into the duo chat component, which is in the GitLab UI project. And I'm working with Dennis to get those things merged. One has been merged for all those like text overrides, and the next, the header disabling prop has been merged, and the text ones are kind of close to merge. So it just basically put in a screenshot of what the chat interface would look like once we override all these props. And then, yeah, it's basically up to you, Eduardo, kind of talking about your backend findings. The most interesting part for me was that we can basically reuse, well, the structure, architecture, what they use in the Duo chat, which I think makes it a lot easier for us.
Yeah. So just to continue what I did, spent a few days on this. I dug into the chat code and modified it so that we could use agents instead of using the basic prompt, like the default prompt that it calls Anthropic or whatever. It calls the system prompt that is passed with that agent. I currently implemented this as an additional action, like custom agent, and you have the chat action and custom agent. But I'm wondering if this just shouldn't be chat. Like if I should just add a property on the chat action, because it's a chat either way. So I want to get at least some feedback from the Duo chat folks on the approach before I commit to implementing tests and everything, because that will take a little bit of time. So I prefer, but
And just
I don't know.
to read that back to make sure I understand, you're saying should like there's an existing chat API and an existing chat mutation, and you're saying like should the agent just be a parameter to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I can show a demo if you guys want.
I'm
Of this one.
I'm distracted by the prompt. Like I was just reading like the example that you put in here, and I think
It's my hello world of testing prompts is be a pirate.
And I love a good dad joke. So that's just spot on.
But
and I love how it starts with an asterisk pretends to have parrot on shoulder, and then anyway, carry on.
Let's see. I don't know if you guys want me to go with this. I just need to remember how to poetry. I could start and do some quick demo of what I did. Let me see if we'll start everything. Okay, this is starting. And then
while he's pulling that up, were you saying that like one advantage to the approach of like using the same chat API is just that the widgets, like the UI components, are already geared towards using that? Like it's more drop-in that way?
Yeah, everything is ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we don't need to work on saving. It's already it's saved on Redis, like past messages are saved on Redis, but still there per user. I did modifying just to do it per user per chat, per agent. So it's the key now is user agent. Building up the prompt to send to Anthropic or to whatever. It's not tied to a specific model. It sends to whatever is the default of our chat. Whatever chat is using as well, so we can change this later, so that's good as well. but let me try to find.
So we could build some kind of interception thing that would change the model based on the user input later when we have a model field or something like this.
Mhm. Yeah, we could.
I really like the idea of just having another option or another parameter because we don't need to maintain anything specific
Yeah.
other than what's currently in there. And maybe we can even kind of pull out the custom logic of the Duo chat front end stuff and put it into some kind of shared whatever and
Yeah.
reuse it in both places. That would be nice.
Yeah, because the idea is that Duo chat is an agent, right? So Duo chat is an instance of an agent. So it would make sense to separate an agent be an internal implementation of that. Like the default, if you don't pass any agent on that,
Totally.
it just switches to the default agent.
Yeah.
Let me see if it will work.
And Mark, I wanted to clarify what you were just saying. Like you're saying model would be a parameter of the agent, right? So it's implicitly defined based on agent selection. Or were you saying something else?
Yeah, because in the example that in the example merge request that Eduardo put together, he has this agent ID, and the agent or the agent version has a model then. So right now, I think the chat uses the default model that has been selected, right, Eduardo?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And once we are at the point where we can select the model, we could kind of intercept what kind of model backend they choose based on the agent version.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Makes
Probably
sense.
like building kind of a thought castle stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Is it? Let me just open up.
I was surprised too, like why did just in that example that you threw together, Eduardo, why did like the human part come back in the content?
I think Anthropic is one of the patterns of Anthropic because there's nothing on the prompt itself, at least not that I saw, that has that that thing, but it does. So let me just open up something over here. I have it working right now. Let me just see this. Let me share my screen quickly. Okay, so the agent 7 is the parrot agent that I created before. So if I call this AI action over here, it will create a request eventually, but so no errors. But if you look at something, let me try to find a mutation for the, this is a mutation for the chat. So it's very much the same thing. We could, instead of adding, just add the agent ID thing. So if I go on the logs, I can see this is this is the human part is appended somewhere. I can find where this is appended and remove it. And then this builds this prompt. So this part is the prompt itself, like the system prompt, and this part is the user input. And then it builds sends this information, gets the joke, which is weirdly always the same joke. I thought it would be a little bit more random, but I guess there's only one joke about the C. And if I go over here, query, this is exactly the same endpoint actually. This endpoint I'm reusing, this is not a new endpoint. I get that message as well. So this would be how you connect on chat. You just have to swap the mutation, but the AI messages to get them would be the same. I think the subscription would also be the same.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like it's the way the API works right now is asynchronous. Like you
Yeah.
like okay.
Yeah.
That's super
Yeah.
annoying, but yeah, I guess it is what it is.
It's a synchronous. So I have it synchronous because of testing, but what it does is it creates a sidekick that triggers the query on the backend, and the GraphQL has something called a subscription that is kind of like it will tell you when there's new data for that. So it's not like
Okay.
you're polling the backend. It will get, as I understood, you'll get that information coming in eventually.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense. Cool.
So it's more like event based rather than like having to poll the thing.
Yeah.
But that's a very boring demo for something that took quite a while to figure out across many. You know, that time of development when you have like 100 file code, 100 line code, and then you have a debugger on every single line of the code just to check whatever is going on every single line. So I had to do a few of those,
Yeah.
but it was pretty fun.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moving
So
parts. I could tell that it was complicated just by like the documentation. Like because they have that like sequence diagram in there of like I think it like explains like the GraphQL subscription and
yeah,
how everything gets kicked off into Sidekick. Yeah.
it helped a lot. The chat was already there, so it's not that I had to create from scratch. I just had to adapt what was already there into our purpose, so that made things a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's working. I just want to get their feedback. It's not mergeable. I haven't implemented tests or anything yet, but the approach is mergeable. I think it's like I have some questions in my mind whether I should pass the agent or the agent version as a parameter, because the prompt is for the agent version. Right now, it doesn't matter because it's the same thing. You have one version, but later that will change. So I might as well just pass that version right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we can pass the version as an optional thing.
Yeah,
Parameter
maybe if you pass the version,
to trigger a
if you pass the
certain
agent,
version
it's
and
the
not like
latest.
the
Yeah,
active
yeah.
version. Yeah.
That makes sense.
If I pass the version, then I don't. The good thing is that if I pass the version only, I avoid a database review
True.
because I don't need to add changes to
Mm.
the model, which is a very desirable thing, at least on my side.
Mm.
So I might go that way and then improve upon later. The faster we can merge this stuff, the better. And you're gonna have this version already mark on the front end either way, because you pull the latest version.
Would you directly go for implementing like only the parameter, or would you today go for merging the other AI action? I hope that was clear.
I
Sorry.
am considering merging, adapting, changing to use the same action. But what I'm thinking is I don't want to get too much into their code base if they're changing stuff. So I want to get their approval. At least when I don't want to merge this without them like saying something or giving me a thumbs up or anything. Because because right now it works, but I fear that at some point there will be some divergence on the approach and some assumption that we might have that will require us to change whatever, and it will be more painful. They're not. For example, just the chat storage is already a thing because it's their key on Redis is per user, and I had to change to user agents. That might lead to some conflict. So I really want their feedback on this. I really want them to give a opinion justly.
My kind of primary concern was whether we want to, well, maybe kind of work with a piece of software that is on a so kind of heavy steam and pretty much in development, or whether we want to have just another action basically that we can use for agent purposes solely.
Yeah. It doesn't change much for there. I did, at least for now, at the current state. Perhaps it's just at its current state. The custom agents action doesn't do much. Actually, there are a lot of features from the chat that the custom agent doesn't have that would be nice. Like, for example, cleaning up the UI. So yeah, we need to. If we use the
we'll see what they
chat,
say.
we would have some better features like cleaning up or slash comments, some tools available already. Everything that is available for
sorry. That would also be very handy for the embed version. It would just be like out of the box. It would just be there.
Yeah.
We could even kind of rebuild the duo chat component thing, or just reuse the do chat component like we do on the details page, for instance, for the embedding. Yeah,
We
full
already
stop.
have some
Thinking.
embedding support for the chat because we are putting this chat on the IDEs. So the IDEs, they have a web view, like the plugins.
True. Mm.
They have a web view that is just the chat thing. So we could reuse that even. Like we have everything out of the box. So that's the approach that I'm going for, and I just want some feedback from them and from you if that makes sense or not.
I think it sounds like a plan.
Yep, I agree. I was also curious if like as you were coming through all of that, Eduardo, if you found the like dual prompt that we're using in production right now, because it would be interesting to create an agent with that prompt and see how well it models the.
I found it
listening.
on I can share it later, but it's in chat. I'll figure it out. I'll just need my brain to start working again, but it's somewhere in there. Should updates create new version records?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
this is the next point we can jump into since we're getting close to time. So I'm gonna work on that, update the system prompt. And I just wanted to clarify that we want to create new versions each time it's updated. So looks like yes. So we'll do that.
Yeah, we don't have.
I thought we discussed the opposite, Eduardo. Was that just you and I that had that sync?
We don't do anything. We just show the latest, but we keep the different versions.
Right, but I thought we'd had a discussion where we were like, there's no real reason to like blow up the versions table, right? And to create a new version on every change necessarily. Like that we could just default to saving it to the latest version. And then if you want to create a new version, like minting a new version is an explicit action. I'm not strongly opinionated. I just don't think that there's any reason to like run up the bill on populating this versions table. I think it would be less valuable to have a version created on every change than for it to be an explicit action.
It's not on every change. It's whenever you save that version. Right.
I think we talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we spoke about having the changing on the UI itself with the thing, and then when you click save, then it would save a new version. We don't.
I guess that's what I mean. I don't mean like saving as you type, right? I mean like I think by default I would expect hitting save to update the current version.
Okay.
And a separate action be create a new version based on this change. And the reason being is like I think it gives user control over the behavior that they desire, right? Otherwise, it's like I don't think everybody would necessarily want that. Because like to me a version is like a snapshot of intentionality, right? It's like I made this change for some reason and that's why I create a new version. And it also seems to align with like the conventions around what LLM providers are doing in terms of like having latest being like a floating tag and then like pinning versions of like Claude and you know GPT-4 and stuff like that, right? Like they keep launching new versions, but they keep one that's pinned as the default.
Yep. That's also what's going to happen, but it's fine to update the existing. So every agent will have just a single version for now, and we'll keep updating that version. Eventually, we might have different versions and so on and so forth, but for now, we'll keep it that way. I'm fine with either approach.
That seems like a good first iteration.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely like a feature we could expand on later, like explicitly version creation. So, all right. So first iteration, we'll just update the single version. And I'll update that in the Epic too. Okay. Marshall, you got the next one.
Yeah, I wish I could say anything else, but I am still working through the AI impact stuff. Not super exciting. Just kind of what needs to be done. So we discovered like one of the reasons why Sid is so confused about like this AI impact thing and why he thinks it's like easy is because he's been operating under the assumption that like the stuff in the VSA dashboard is in ClickHouse and the events from code suggestions are in ClickHouse. So why can we not like join those data sets together? And the answer is that like, of course, product analytics is in a totally separate ClickHouse cluster. Like that's all experimental. It's not even in the same VPC as the rest of our infrastructure, right? It's just totally ancillary. And it turns out that the VSA dashboard is not holistically being powered by ClickHouse right now. They're in the midst of an incremental migration of moving more stuff over to ClickHouse, but it's not all there. And they've only started like the data is currently in both places. So it's in Postgres and it's in ClickHouse, and they're actually only using ClickHouse for even a subset of the queries that they could be using it for, given the data that's there. So like the TLDR is that like we got to get the data in one place, and so the MR that I have now hooks into the events table in Postgres. So this table is used like basically every CRUD action ends up populating an event in this events table in Postgres. If you look at the MR, sorry, I thought I had the list. Yeah, I'll share my screen in a second. And I don't think anybody actually cares about this, so speed through it. If you look here at the MR, so this is the documentation around like the types of user contribution events. This is used to populate the contribution events table, right, on everybody's profile. But it's also used, I think, to populate like stuff like the to-do lists and whatnot. Maybe I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, these are all the events. These are all like the like entities that the events are triggered on, and then these are like the actual events. So the idea here is that we'll just start shipping the events table to product analytics essentially, and then that'll allow us to put even more stuff into that dashboard, and potentially like it still doesn't really get us to the what Sid originally asked for, which is the what is it, the cycle time, because cycle time is like they walked me through a bit of how that's computed, and like it's not computed from it. Like they still use Postgres to compute that metric, and it's because like if you look at like the events that you need are like the push event on commits, and then you also need the merged event on merge requests, and you would also need the opened event on issues, created event on issues. But the problem is that like the events table does not have like the linked, like for a given MR or for a given commit, it doesn't have information about like the linked merge requests and the linked issues, right? So there's no way to compute cycle time based on this data set. There's no way to compute cycle time based on data that is being stored in ClickHouse at the moment, period. So this pushes us in that direction a little bit, but still won't be there. I'm talking to David here in a little bit to see if that will be sufficient for the meeting tomorrow or what our positioning around that will be. But yeah, that's what I got for now. What's exciting about it, in my opinion, is that like I think like everything that we're doing in VSA around this like events table, like it makes sense to start doing this like in another place. Like they're already having scalability issues with this events table being in Postgres. I think they get like between 50 and 60 writes per second on it at peak time, which isn't too bad. But if you like, since they also need like the normalized data, or is it denormalized? One of the two. They need like a normalized representation in ClickHouse that like actually has all these relationships so they can start to build up those metrics from ClickHouse. And so this is at least a step in the right direction as far as all that goes. I really hate having to be the guy that's like, look, our hands are tied and like there's nothing that we can do about this. But the situation, every time I dig into it a little bit more, like the situation's even worse than it seems. So still digging us out of this hole, and we'll see if this helps.
Cool. All right. Thanks for that. We're over time, but just wanted to call it any blockers that anyone's running into right now that we can help clear up, other than what Marshall just talked about.
I don't have any blocker on my side.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. We'll wrap it up then. I'll throw this up on Unfiltered momentarily and post it in the channel, so you can share with others.
Okay.
Thanks,
Right.
Dobby.
Yes.
See ya.
Thanks for leading this. Bye bye.
Yes.